Hey guys, welcome back. Friends, before starting with dependency injection, which is really a good topic, we would look into two things. First would be how to handle the constructor argument, and then later we will also understand how to set property under these Spring Beans. So interesting things are coming up in this section. In this particular lecture, we will deal with the constructor thing. Now, if we talk about this particular program, then in here we are making use of this particular class, where it is this bike insurance.java class, and we are simply returning this particular string. And how we are mapping it? We are mapping it based on beans.xml. So let me also show you the beans.xml file. Here we go. So we are mapping this particular class, and the ID for the bean is my insurance, and definitely we are calling the my insurance. So this is all about it. Now imagine that this particular bike insurance class also have a constructor. Then how to handle the situation? So let's create a property in here. In fact, we would be creating two property in here. Private. The first property would be, for example, name. So it would be string name, and the second property would be private, and it would be insurance ID. So it would be like insurance ID. Now based on these two property, we would be creating the constructor. Definitely this insurance ID would be an int entity. So we will right click, and we will again take help of Eclipse. We will navigate to source, and we will choose this particular option, generate constructor using field, and we would be checking these two options, and we will click on OK. Now we have this constructor with us, and we will also get rid of this super method. We don't require that. Alright, so as if now I haven't did anything apart from adding these two property and adding this constructor. Even now, if I execute this particular program, there would be an error. Let me show you this. So this would be a runtime exception, no such method exception, because under Java, if we define a constructor, the default constructor needs to be also defined by us, or the no argument constructor needs to be defined by us as well. In order to get rid of this particular exception, we will do something interesting. We will add a no argument constructor. So let us quickly do that. Public bike insurance, and we won't be accepting anything in this particular constructor, but we would be initializing these two properties rather. So what we will do, we will copy this code like this, and in place of name, in fact, we will give the name as user, and we will give the insurance ID as 000. Alright, so we are initializing these two values with some default value, and in here we would be updating this message. We will say hi, and then double quotes close, then we will concatenate what? This particular property, name. Alright, everything looks good. So hi, name, whatever name would be there, and then we will say your bike is insured, plus we will say your insurance ID is, then again we need to concatenate definitely the insurance ID. Fantastic. So everything looks good to me as if now. And now if I navigate to this users.java and try to execute the program, then I suppose the error must vanish. Here we go. And fantastic. So our program is executing fine, and the expected result is in front of us, hi user, because the default value of user which we have set as user, and then your bike is insured, your insurance ID is 0, which is fantastic. Now we will try to handle the situation where we want to use this particular constructor. Now friends, in order to handle the current situation where we will also would like to use this constructor where we will pass the name and insurance ID externally, we need to do something special, and that special thing would be inside this beans.xml. If we open this beans.xml and then we navigate to beans, we will click on this particular tab. In fact, overview tab and beans tab are slightly different and both can be used, and it is preferred to use this beans tab in fact. So in this beans tab, I will highlight this my insurance bean, and then I will right click and insert a constructor argument. As soon as I do this, a tag would be added in the XML file. So it's perfectly alright to type in these tags manually in the XML file, but using the tools things becomes easy. So now moving forward, in this argument we can also pass the values directly. For example, I pass the value as my name, and then I would be again adding a new constructor argument, and this time the insurance ID could be like 987654321, and then we are passing these two values, a string and then a integer value, right? And if we check this bike insurance.java, in this constructor we have firstly string and then we have insurance. Now friends, if we are not specifying, for example, name and type, then it becomes very important to send the value properly. The first value needs to be a string and the second value needs to be a integer entity in order to work properly with this version of constructor. So let me save this beans.xml file, and moving forward to this user.java, if again we execute this particular program, then we would be able to get the updated value where we can able to see the name which we have passed, my name Chand, and the insurance ID, means everything is looking perfect. If I again navigate to this beans.xml, then I can also specify the type. Chand is a string type, so I will type in string in here, and for this particular integer entity we can also make use of integer, and these are classes. In fact, integer and strings are classes, and we need to specify the fully qualified name, and for that we can click on this browse, and then we can choose this java.lang.string. Alright, and likewise we can also choose the class for integer. Alright, so we have made a typo in here, integer. Alright, so everything looks good. In fact, again, if we save this particular beans.xml and navigate to user.java and execute the program, even now there won't be any change. There is some kind of error, I suppose. Let me check. Let me navigate to this beans.java. I suppose the issue could be because of this. We need to pass in the primitive type int. Now if I navigate to users.java, should it work? Let me check. Yes, it does work. Means we need to pass in the primitive data type in fact. So that's a new information for me as well. For a string, because we are making use of this string class, we are passing the fully qualified name, and in place of int we are making use of primitive data type. Here primitive data type, so we are making use of the primitive data type int. So everything looks good. Apart from that, there is one more thing. For example, for this name, I pass in the name, and again we execute this particular program, there won't be any change. Now names plays an important role. For example, if I again navigate to this beans.java, and for this particular entity, the second argument whose name is insurance ID, and by mistake I give the name as only ID, means the association of the name is not proper. The property name is insurance ID, but we have given the name in the beans.xml as ID, whereas in place of name we have given a proper name for the constructor argument. I suppose you guys are getting it. these are the constructor arguments. So whenever we are defining the name, these names needs to be proper, else there would be an error. Let me show you this. So in here we go. So there is a exception. So if I again navigate to beans.java, I need to give the exact name which we have passed to this particular argument. So let me quickly update this. Let me save this. And finally, if I execute it again, then everything would be good. So in order to summarize these things, whenever we are passing the argument in a constructor, we need to definitely add the constructor argument tag. Moreover, if I again navigate to the source, this constructor argument tag, moreover, only value is required and type and name are optional. But if we are typing in the type and name, those needs to be accurate. Means if the argument is a string, then we need to define the type as a string, and if the variable name is, for example, name, then we need to give the name as name. Likewise, in here the type is int and name is insurance ID. So this is all about today's lecture. I suppose you have understood the concept, and these small little things are very important, because when the application grows to a massive level and we need to debug the Spring's application, it becomes little tricky to debug Spring's application, and your core knowledge about XML configuration and these attribute information will definitely help you to debug these Spring's web applications. So I suppose I have made myself clear. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.